Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
The governor making a big announcement. More fans will be allowed into stadiums like Comerica Park. But what does that mean for local businesses that have been struggling? Is it enough? I'm taking a look tonight at that story in my Help Me Hank report.
CDC puts out new guidelines to get more children back into face-to-face learning. But some administrators are saying, you know what, that's really not the key.
Okay, Paula, as COVID cases in Michigan continue to rise, there are new rules coming for student athletes involving not just games, but also practice. The coronavirus tops our news here at 6, and the latest numbers from the state aren't the kind we like to see.
No, they sure aren't. Michigan reporting more than 3,700 new cases over the past 24 hours, along with 15 more deaths from COVID-19. That's up 1,100 from yesterday and the highest count we've seen since early January.
Today also brings a number of changes to COVID restrictions and guidelines. The CDC is reducing its recommended amount of physical distance between students in schools to 3 feet.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer this morning announced an increase in the number of fans allowed inside outdoor stadiums like Comerica Park. Stadiums can now seat up to 20% capacity.
But the state is also mandating more testing of student athletes. The governor is blaming the spike in COVID cases on the reopening of high school sports. Rod Maloney joins us live with those new testing requirements and the reaction to those as well. Rod?
Well, Kimberly, I don't get the impression that anybody's very happy about all of this, but the school districts and a lot of the teams said, look, we'll do whatever we got to do to get these kids playing, and so that's what's going to play out. But there's a problem tonight in that there aren't a lot of specifics out. There are more questions than answers about what's going to happen with the testing.
High school student athletics will now be required to get tested before all sports practices and competitions.
The governor's words sent a bit of a shockwave through the sports community statewide, but further clarification put the testing on a weekly, not a daily basis. Michigan High School Athletic Association Executive Director Mark Yule says the remaining winter sports are only mildly impacted. Wrestlers are already testing.
So that's 32 boys basketball teams, it's 32 girls basketball teams, a rough number. We're talking 950 basketball players that would still be remaining in our tournament the following week, that first full week of April.
As for spring sports, well, the testing rules aren't available just yet. But Ewell is also concerned about the governor's decision to make the age range 13 to 19.
Some of our highest participation numbers at the junior high level are in the spring when it comes to middle school track and field. So for those middle school kids who are 13, what the order leads us to believe right now is that they would have to test.
After a year of this, there's considerable impact overall, says Lincoln Park School Superintendent Terry Dangerfield.
I think at some point we have to have some common sense here and say that schools can only do so much without extra help. And that help can come in a variety of ways. That can come in the form of funding, but it can also come in the form of people, which also comes at a cost.
What he's really saying there, and what he talked to me at length about, is the fact that he says for the governor to put in this kind of testing, she has to understand that it's a coach that ends up doing this testing, that the coach does the testing, gets the results, and then uploads it to a bulky state website that doesn't work so well. He says they could use some help out here, and they're going to continue doing what they have to do, but it's getting tough. Reporting live in West Bloomfield, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
Okay, Rod, thank you.
Students can safely be seated 3 feet apart in school instead of 6. That's according to new guidance from the CDC, which also says masks must continue to be worn. Paula Tutman has been talking with education leaders tasked with making that work as more children return to the classrooms.
Today, new guidance from the CDC that could help more schools manage face-to-face learning models. Elementary schools distancing now 3 feet apart at desks instead of 6. 3 feet physical distancing in the high schools, provided current community spread is minimal, but 6 feet physical distance in those upper grades if there is high community spread. And of course, masks. No ifs and buts about it. The new guidelines will certainly help some schools get back to face-to-face learning, especially where population and space is at a premium. According to Kenneth Gutman, the superintendent of Walled Lake Consolidated Schools and the vice president of the K-12 Alliance, which represents more than 500,000 students and teachers in the southeastern Michigan area.
It's consistent with what the state's offering. The state's incentivizing returning more students to school, and this allows for more opportunities. For a lot of districts, including ours, 3 feet has been close to the standard, and there are times where we're not within 3 feet.
We have seen districts with a variety of COVID mitigation strategies. Detroit Public Schools Community District has the most stringent: temperature checks at the door, smaller classes and distancing, and of course masks. Farmington schools actually have partitions to keep students separated. Romeo Schools is only asking for masks, and a community asked to do its part to keep households healthy if they choose to send children back to face-to-face learning. But Gutman says in his own district, he needs more parents to take the pandemic seriously, or new guidelines or not, none of this will work long term.
We would love to see people make safe choices, whether it's getting vaccinated, whether it's not holding neighborhood and parties and gatherings. Whatever can happen in the communities will help keep our children safer in schools. We had to close a school this week because the percentage of students who were quarantined and staff that were quarantined went up, and it really had more to do with neighborhood gatherings. But our people dug in, they're dug in. And I hope bit by bit that changes, but if everyone would just follow the rules, we'd be out of this a lot quicker.
You know, and I don't want to soft pedal this because I actually hear this from administrators in different districts across the region, that there are a lot of parents who want their children back into face-to-face learning, but show that they are unwilling to do the mitigations to make that happen a lot easier, like wearing masks, getting the vaccination when it's their turn, and also not gathering in close spaces. And that really is going to be the key. Paula Tutman, Local 4.
Okay, Paula. Governor Whitmer's other big announcement of the day: more fans will be allowed at the ballpark with opening day right around the corner. Outdoor stadiums and arenas can reopen at 20% capacity if they follow strict protocols and test players. For the Tigers, that means 8,200 people will be allowed at Comerica Park. Tickets will be mobile only, and all concessions are cashless. You must wear a mask at all times except when eating or drinking. Fans will be seated in pods with at least 6 feet of distance between groups, and you'll have to fill out a wellness survey before you enter the park. Tickets go on sale Thursday. The governor's move to allow more fans into stadiums is welcome news for business owners in the heart of downtown Detroit, but still the reduced capacity and COVID concerns have many worried about their financial future. Here's consumer investigator Hank Winchester.
The news now that more fans will be allowed into stadiums like Comerica Park and LCA, well, that is good news. But for the businesses in this area, they just wonder if it's enough. The stadiums won't be packed, the crowds won't be all over the streets, which means fewer Tiger fans and Wings fans are going to roll into nearby bars and restaurants. It's a concern for business owners like Jay Lambrick, owner of Bookie's Bar and Grill.
Here at Bookie's, we're very event-oriented, so obviously having people working downtown or being able to go to special events is a big part of our day-to-day business. So obviously we're anxious to, as people get vaccinated and cases go down, that occupancy for events like that can go up.
The governor announced today more fans will be allowed into stadiums, 20% of the capacity. It's a step many feel in the right direction, but it still means fewer fans downtown.
I wish I could say it was going to make a big difference, but it probably really doesn't. Until we get to at least 50% or more capacity for those major events, that's really enough to feed the businesses down here.
Restaurant and bar owners in the heart of Detroit have obviously been concerned about how the pandemic is affecting the number of customers.
A lot of our customer base are people that work downtown. And so those people to this date haven't come back in full force.
Many believing that as we get into the baseball season, that more fans will be allowed into the stadium. A group of Republican lawmakers have been pushing the governor to increase capacity.
Like the other states in this nation, please allow the economic train that was moving before March 13th of 2020 to get back on track.
Many of the local business owners here downtown have also been reaching out to the governor's office, hopeful that as more shots go into arms, more fans will be allowed into stadiums downtown. I'm Hank Winchester. Help me, Hank.
All right, Hank. Following the deadly shootings that killed 8 people at spas in Atlanta, we've learned one of the victims has a local connection. Paul Michaels, a native of Metro Detroit, was killed just doing his job. As Paul's family tries to come to grips with the loss, his brother spoke with our Larry Spruill today.
The most recent shootings in Atlanta at several massage spas are really taking a toll on a lot of people in our country. And now that pain is being felt here in Michigan as well. Today, I spoke with one of the victims' brothers about what happened.
I'm walking between reality and denial.
John Michaels is still trying to digest what happened to his twin brother, 54-year-old Paul Michaels.
Is it reality? Not till I see the body, probably, coffin. So it's that thing. It's like, do I want to believe it or do I not want to believe it?
His brother Paul was one of the victims shot and killed in the shootings at several massage spas in Metro Atlanta. His brother tells me Paul worked with security systems and was at the Cherokee location finishing up a project when the gunman walked in.
No, he was there servicing the security system. So he was actually, they were a client of his. So he was servicing their security system. While I was at work at my lunchtime, my sister Ann said, call her. So I called her and she told me, and I didn't tell my boss. I wrote him a note, showed him a note because I was not speaking. And I didn't speak to no one the rest of the day, really.
He did call the rest of the family to let them know.
Well, they're handling it. We're not really, we talk about it. We're talking about funeral plans.
John says the last couple of days have been tough, but he's holding on to the memories of his twin brother.
I was up here in Flint. He was up in Atlanta. We'd meet at Cedar Point and spend the weekend together. So things like that was what we did together as brothers.
I asked him if he could talk to the man who killed his brother. What would he say?
I'm at peace. As soon as I heard about it, I just said, Lord, you told me to forgive. I've already forgiven the man.
Larry Spruill, Local 4.
All right, Larry. A local township clerk faces misdemeanor charges over improper handling of absentee ballots. Genoa Township Clerk Paulette Scaloris is charged with 1 count of failure to perform duty under the state's election law. The charges come after the issue was discovered during a Board of Canvassers meeting last November. She's accused of using a disapproved ballot container for absentee ballots. She faces up to 90 days in jail or a $500 fine if convicted.
Police are about to crack down on drivers along one stretch of Woodward. Find out what they'll be looking for. That's right ahead.
And here's Sean Lay.
A group of Michigan nuns fighting back against COVID-19.
From our perspective, we encourage everyone who can to get the vaccine because it's not only protecting you, it's continuing to protect others.
After they suffered devastating losses.